Hey, it's Russ from the Infectious Groove Podcast. Love it or hate it, today's video is going to focus on probably the most divisive record in Motley Crue's entire catalog, and it also qualifies as a rare and special pressing. Going to talk a little bit about Motley Crue's self-titled album coming right up. So, as you know, we are continuing our series on rare and special vinyl pressings. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell so you're notified every time we have a new video on Thursdays. Also, you can get more goodness from the Infectious Groove Podcast by going to any podcast provider, searching for Infectious Groove Podcast, hitting that subscribe button, and you not only get to hear a new episode every week on Mondays from me, but my co-hosts Kyle and Michelle bring their unique perspectives to the table as well. And we have tons of back episodes for you to check out, including some interviews with legends from music and more episodes coming every week, so check that out. Here now today, we're continuing our series on rare and special vinyl pressings that I have, and if you are a Motley Crue fan, you know this is the most rare Motley Crue record that you can get. There are portions from the Motley Crue catalog that have never been pressed on vinyl still. I'm thinking of things like New Tattoo, Generation Swine, but of what's been pressed, this is by far the rarest one to come across. A lot of reasons why. If you're already a Crue fan, you know why. If you're not a Crue fan or you're not up on the history of the band, I'm going to give you a very, very quick Cliff Notes version of it, and then you can maybe Google around and find out more. Motley Crue was riding high off of the success of record after record after record being more successful than the last. Theater of Pain was more successful than Shout at the Devil. Girls, Girls, Girls was more successful than Theater of Pain. And then Dr. Feelgood came out, produced by Bob Rock, and hilltop for Motley Crue. Top of the mountain as far as hit singles, sales, notoriety, press, sellout tours, and they followed that up with a hits package, and were really, really ready to move into the 90s and continue to evolve their sound. And if you heard that hits package that came out after Dr. Feelgood, there was a song called Primal Scream. And Primal Scream really had a harder edge than what was found definitely on Girls, 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 and most of what was on Dr. Feelgood. The band was pretty much controlled musically, first of all, by nikkisixx, their bass player, and most of the lyrics came from Nikki, and a lot of the riffs did as well. Mickmars, of course, contributing fantastic riffs and amazing solos throughout, but the band was pretty much controlled sound-wise by nikkisixx, and he wanted to go further in that direction. Mick and Tommy also wanted to go in that direction, and really music was changing so much with the introduction of grunge, and even bands like Van Halen and Ozzy putting out harder albums. I wouldn't ever call them alternative records, but they were harder records than what they had been doing in the 80s. So Nicky kind of saw that, wanted to move in that direction, and Vince Neil very famously did not, and in my opinion, mistakenly did not. Really, really similar situation to what happened with Van Halen and David Lee Roth here, where Vince was first to put out his material. It was more of the same. It was more of what he had been doing at that time, and fizzled out very quickly. He kind of had a little bit of a hit with a song that was in a movie and didn't really go anywhere. So the world was kind of waiting around to see what Motley Crue was going to do to react. Now, this is where the story differs from Van Halen. Van Halen put out 5150 with Sammy Hagar and had as big or bigger hit than they had in the past with David Lee Roth, and really went on to have a long career with Sammy Hagar at the helm. Motley Crue put out what, in my opinion, is as good or better of an album than 5150 is for in Van Halen's lineage with this self-titled record. But the fans were not ready to go for it. The record label really mismanaged this album as far as knowing how to market it without Vince Neil at the helm. So many, many, many years went by and no one ever gave this record the attention that they should. And what's really sad about this record and why it's so rare on vinyl is that this is continually forgotten by Motley Crue themselves. If you collect vinyl, you might look at this and not even know this was on vinyl before, because Motley Crue, in the last 10 years alone, have reissued their entire catalog, I'm using Dr. Evil quotes, entire catalog on vinyl which for them seems to only consist of Too Fast for Love, Shout at the Devil, Theater of Pain, Girls, 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 and Dr. Feelgood. They, for whatever reason, do not care to acknowledge the greatness that is this record, or even their records after Vince came back, like Generation Swine and New Tattoo. I believe there's at least one more I'm forgetting about, but Vince came back and did records, and Motley Crue continues to ignore those records when they could easily reissue something like this and more fans could get turned on to it. Or if you're already a fan of this record, you can get a copy for yourself. Now, this was released in 1994. You may have seen it before if you've seen it on CD or cassette, the same cover, but it's a red Motley Crue on that for whatever reason. The vinyl has more of a yellow flare with the huge yellow Motley Crue on the front, but even on the back, everything that was red on the cassette and CD versions, and even in the inside inserts, everything that's yellow on the vinyl version was red on the CD and cassette version for whatever reason. And actually, they did it on yellow and red on CDs, because if you remember in the 90s, it was really gimmicky to try and get people to buy multiple versions of the same album. But so you may have seen it with the yellow cover on CD, you may have seen it with red. But as far as I've ever seen, the only editions on vinyl have the yellow cover. And actually, this record is kind of bootlegged here and again, and it's really easy to spot a bootleg sometimes because they'll just blow up the red cover mistakenly, and that's an easy way to spot the bootleg. As far as the LPs go, again, we're dealing with a mid-90s pressing here, so really not anything special, very plain Elektra Motley Crue logo and whatnot. Not anything like you see these days. Like if this record ever gets reissued, I would be surprised if they don't do custom inner labels, but not really a lot special going on with the actual pressing itself. The inners are almost funny to me. I don't know if you sometimes see a commercial from the 90s and you go, oh, that's definitely from the 90s. That's how these inner sleeves are done. This is a picture of the 90s. I don't even know which way is up on these, because that's the art direction is supposed to be all edgy and cool and 90s, and that's what these are. Not really a lot, to be honest. If anything, they're kind of disappointing, because one thing I love about inners, and a lot of people do, is credits and lyrics and thank yous and all that type of thing. And on here, they're very much reduced to just corners of art, and then you have all this other things that are supposed to be edgy and cool and whatnot. But what I want to say about the record, though, is if my biggest complaint with this album is that the art direction could have been better, I'll take that one complaint. The album itself is way harder. If you've heard the song Primal Scream and you've never even heard one song off of this album, think Primal Scream 10 times in a row, just as good or better. Then the last thing is that, of course, this has a different lead singer on it. John Corabi brought all sorts of great things to the table that never got appreciated by Motley Crue fans. He brought rhythm guitar playing, a totally different type of singing and feeling to Motley Crue than Vince Neil did. He actually was, for the first time, able to contribute really good and great lyrics to Motley Crue, which had been something that had been lacking because, as I said earlier, everything was on Nicky's shoulder as far as the band goes. So really, as far as a lineup goes, this was the best you could get as far as Motley Crue, but it was mismanaged, it was mismarketed, and the fans didn't even know what to make of it at the time. But it's grown in popularity. Unfortunately, it is a rare pressing, and it should not be. For the time being, it is a rare pressing. Now, a lot of these rare pressing videos, I will end up saying to you, don't bother paying the over market price for that record. It's not worth it for this reason, or you can find a different version. I got to tell you, I have no stake in this game. I make no extra money off of Discog sales or anything like that. I don't plan on ever selling my copy. But if you are a fan of this record, I cannot stress enough, get this record as soon as you can before the market prices continue to escalate, because I do not ever see Motley Crue reissuing this record. So the ones that are out there are just going to keep going up in price. If you haven't yet, give this album a listen. Check it out. If you have, and you're just really excited about seeing a vinyl copy, here it is for you. Motley Crue, self-titled masterpiece from 1994. Thanks for watching.